It's the week of June 30th through July 6th. Venus is back in the spotlight. Yeah, hopefully she's back and in a good way and not back on her bullshit. She's the star of the show this week. She's going to be conjunct Uranus on the 4th of July. And she's going to move into Cancer on that date as well. On the 6th of July, we've got Venus sextile Saturn and then Neptune. On the 7th of July, Uranus moves into Gemini. That's going to be a big, big shift right there. But let's get back to Venus because she's really the star of the show this week. All of the symbols in the sky have their positive and we'll call them shadow aspects. And Venus's positive aspects, probably you know already, she's about beauty, she's about love, she's about money and proper use of money. But when we drill down into what the core of Venus is about value and our values, what we think is important, our moral code, that kind of thing. Like, and you can see how all those other things come out of our values, what we value. And I also I think we think of Venus as being a visual kind of planet, but really she's quite musical and very much attached to listening and hearing. We've got to listen to ourselves first and most importantly. We have to listen to ourselves and hear what we are saying, hear what we are feeling inside. Who's driving your life anyway? Like, you're the one who knows what you really value. It all has to come from your internal compass. And listening to other people, responding to how they respond to us, like being able to see how our actions are landing on somebody else. It's all about listening and hearing. That's the basis for all relationships. Venus's shadow can kind of take two paths, but they both really come out of not listening. First off, we can hurt ourselves by attempting to be receptive to everyone. But Venus love isn't like that. That's Neptunian love. We really can't hear how the other person is responding to us if all we're thinking about is how are we going to give things to them? How are we going to be of service to them? How are we going to, and so on, like anticipating their needs. We're not listening to ourselves and we're not listening to how the other person, how we are falling on the other person or how they are taking us in. And when we treat people that we don't know, people that haven't earned our trust, that we have nothing to gauge them by, we're kind of using that attention that we're giving them to drown out our own inner Venus, our own values and what we want, how things are feeling to us. You know, like love for a celebrity, for example, or someone we barely know, like feeling that really strong, like magnetic feeling attraction when we don't really have a relationship with them. That is limerence and that is Venus shadow because it's blocking out everything. We're not hearing, our needs aren't getting met. We're not, it's a one-way street, and Venus is meant to be a back and forth. And we're opening ourselves up for self-destruction because even really nice people are going to be tempted to take advantage of us and use us if we are, going to put ourselves out there. Like if somebody offers to drive me to work every day, who am I to say no? Like, and then we're going to be upset when it's not a reciprocal relationship. We're going to feel used. Eventually, we'll wake up and realize, oh my God, I've just been putting myself out there and that other person doesn't even see me. That is Shadow Venus. Another shade of Shadow Venus is imposter syndrome. Didn't see that one coming, did you? When we devalue ourselves from the jump, like we don't really believe in ourselves, we never can develop that potential. We're afraid to do well because a part of us doesn't believe it's possible. So we never can fully develop. And that's where we walk on eggshells and over apologize and do all of the work in the relationship or at work or wherever. We give too much, and then in the end we're crushed and feel horrible when things don't work out. And more importantly, people don't see us as necessary, or they start to believe in our imposter syndrome too. Nobody's going to encourage someone to develop who doesn't believe that they can do the work. I mean, maybe that's a little harsh. I would encourage someone to do better, and that they can do it. But you know what I mean? It's difficult to encourage somebody who doesn't believe in themselves. And again, this comes from not listening to ourselves. We're not hearing our own pain and lack that is behind that imposter syndrome. We're not hearing the other person's reaction to our tentativeness. And honestly, for many of us, this is coming from hearing messages from the past, like maybe from abusive parents or whoever who told us we weren't any good. We're hearing that louder than we're hearing our own inner voice. But wait, there's more. Venus can go wrong in so many ways. And the other one is narcissistic expression. We don't hear ourselves because we let our shallow desire for seeking approval and speak louder than our internal dialogue, and certainly louder than we hear other people and hearing how we are falling on them, and by that I mean like how they are perceiving us. We don't hear rules and boundaries, and we believe that how things look is more important than how they feel. I remember Billy Crystal a million years ago had a character who used to say, "It is better to look good than it is to feel good." And yeah, that's Shadow Venus. We feel empty inside when we're doing that narcissistic dance that it's all about me, but we can't take those feelings in. We can't recognize that. We can't hear our own emptiness because we're so scared to look. We're too fragile to hear disagreement. We're too brittle to adjust and learn. And we're too frightened to hear the truth. And, Venus is so closely related to women and femininity. And, I think that this really connects with our cultural beliefs about women and love. Because if we go back over the list, the first one is no self-worth, or the second one, false self-worth. And, we can really tie the room together with one word: weakness. So when we put that all together, what is Venus really about? Well, a healthy Venus radiates strength. And that's not how we've been trained to think about women or femininity, is it? That means that natural, healthy Venus isn't a pushover. She doesn't obey her husband. She doesn't blindly obey anyone, her father, her spouse, or the President of the United States. Healthy Venus doesn't have to prove her worth by doing everything backwards in high heels and then cleaning up the mess after everybody's gone. That's not healthy Venus. This is why I keep yammering on about how important it is for us to have a good relationship with ourselves, healthy self-esteem. And everybody has Venus in their chart somewhere. This isn't about women, it's about how we relate to each other. If we have healthy Venusian style love for ourselves, we can hear how we feel. We can have strong, healthy boundaries. We can take advice. We can weigh the options and think for ourselves. And when we need to, we get extra advice, expert advice from other people because we're not afraid of the truth. We know that the truth is our friend. Venus is really the answer to toxic masculinity, the patriarchy, the status quo that we have here in the United States. So anyway, let's talk about Uranus, who is the other big player this week. Healthy Uranus represents flashes of insight and intuition and what we call cosmic downloads, when you just kind of understand something in its entirety all at once. He is electricity and innovation. He's about rebellion, but healthy Uranus is driven to flip the tables over like Jesus was, like in defense of the greater good, because things have gotten out of balance and the table needs to be flipped because wiping it all away is the only way to start over. But shadow Uranus is reactive and childish. He breaks things for fun, to get a reaction, and the power that comes from everybody else's shock. He starts shit just to see what happens, like a cat knocking a vase off the mantle. Just, let's see what happens. He's erratic because he doesn't have a core. The core moral belief that Uranus normally has is gone in shadow Uranus. And for this week and forever, the best way to deal with a Uranus transit is to get ahead of the change, because change is going to happen no matter what. As Pam Gregory likes to say, the music is going to play. And so change is going to happen. And if we can be the master, the planner of that change, the one that is, taking the lead, it's going to turn out much, much better for us. This is like when things get gross at work and we can kind of see the end coming, or things are just bad, and you're kind of getting this inkling of, gee, maybe I should bail out. And then the other part of you is afraid to make that change, so you don't do it. And then a Uranus transit comes up and you get fired because you really were meant to leave that job. This is just one example, but that's what I'm talking about. And my slogan for Uranus is, you make the change so the change doesn't make you. If that makes sense. Venus is going to conjunct Uranus on the 4th of July at 29 degrees of Taurus. And 29 degrees of any sign is the most powerful degree of that sign. It's like all the energy is compacted into that last final degree. So, and also Taurus is ruled by Venus. So this makes this even more impactful because she's the ruler of the sign. She's right there. And she's being lifted up by Uranus, who wants her to go do her her healthy Venus stuff. And I'm sure you're all thinking about the political aspects of this because it's so topical. But in our personal lives, let's think about how we can make positive, revolutionary changes to the way that we love. And sure, you could use this transit like, depending on what house it falls in for you, you could use it to, buy something pretty. But to me, the biggest value for Venus is the kind of emotional growth that we can accomplish when we have her health. So if you know what house Taurus is in your chart, that'll help give you some clues to the kind of changes you should be looking into. And if you don't know, that's okay too. What we have to be asking ourselves is, how can we bring love to whatever revolution is happening in our own lives? Where is the big change happening for you? And how can you bring more love, more hearing, more receptivity, more understanding to that situation? When we are emotionally secure in ourselves, we're better parents, we're better partners, we're better friends, we're better workers, because we're not afraid of losing ourselves anymore. Working to feel grounded in fearless self-love is the best thing to do on any day of the week, and especially in the morning part of the 4th of July. I cannot wait to see what happens. And I'll see you next week.